You think your first $100,000 makes you a threat to the system. The math proves the opposite. You are not the enemy. You are Wall Street's fattest prey. They are not congratulating you. They are activating a psychological machine to swallow your capital before compound interest can even ignite. Welcome to the Baron's Ledger. Today, we expose the exact traps designed to drain your wealth. Everyone blames inflation, but that is a distraction. The real killer hides in level 3, where I will expose how they strip you of your ultimate weapon. A quick reminder before we proceed, everything in this video is for educational and entertainment purposes only and is not financial advice. Always consult a certified professional before making any decisions with your money. Now, let's get into it. Level 1. The Curse of Charlie Munger and Suburban Pressure. The late billionaire Charlie Munger famously warned that accumulating the first $100,000 from a standing start is an absolute nightmare. He was not exaggerating. Reaching that milestone required brutal, unforgiving discipline. You skipped the vacations, you avoided the expensive dinners, you traded your sweat and youth for raw capital. But Munger left out the most terrifying part of that reality. The nightmare does not end when you hit that number. The true nightmare begins the exact moment those 6 figures appear on your screen. Right now, you are looking at your bank app. You feel a rush of dopamine. You feel a deep, comforting sense of smugness. You believe you have finally escaped poverty. You think you have beaten the system and secured your piece of the American dream. You are completely wrong. You have not escaped the rat race. You have simply qualified for the premium tier of exploitation. Let us look at the brutal mathematics of your situation. If you are terrified of losing that hard-earned money, you likely parked it in a high-yield savings account. The bank pats you on the head and hands you a 4 or 5% yield. You think you are safely growing your wealth. But look at the reality outside your window. The true cost of living, the housing, the groceries, the energy, the insurance, is quietly compounding at an invisible 8 to 10%. The math is ruthless, and it does not care about your feelings. Your $100,000 is quietly melting away while you sleep. You are bleeding purchasing power every single second you sit still. So, the panic sets in. You realize cash is a depreciating asset. You decide you need to do exactly what society tells successful people to do. You decide to upgrade your existence. This is the exact moment the American dream opens its jaws and swallows you whole. The pressure of the suburbs begins to suffocate your rational mind. You look at your peers. You see their upgraded kitchens, their manicured lawns, and the shiny new Tesla parked in the driveway. A dangerous voice in your head whispers that you deserve a reward for all your sacrifice. You convince yourself that a house is a safe investment. So, you take $50,000 and dump it into a down payment for a suburban trap. You take another $15,000 and sign a loan for that luxury electric car. What did you just do? You did not buy wealth. You bought a costume. You took the absolute most powerful weapon you possessed, your compound interest engine, and you completely destroyed it. That $100,000 was a seed. Left untouched in the market, compound interest would have turned that capital into an unstoppable, self-sustaining machine over the next 2 decades. Instead, you slaughtered the machine before it could even generate its first spark of real momentum. You traded your financial armor for a 30-year labor sentence. That mortgage and that car loan now require a massive, uninterrupted flow of cash. To keep the suburban house and the shiny car, you must keep the corporate job. You can no longer walk away from a toxic manager. You cannot take a risk on a new venture. You are completely handcuffed to your weekly paycheck. You traded your ultimate freedom for sheet metal, drywall, and the fleeting approval of neighbors you do not even like. Feel that sudden emptiness in your stomach. Feel that vertigo. That is the agonizing realization that your money did not make you rich. It merely transformed you into a high-end consumer. You upgraded the aesthetic of your cage, but you are still locked inside. You are still trading your blood and your finite time on this earth just to maintain an illusion of success. Lifestyle inflation is merely the tragedy of you robbing yourself. You willingly handed over your future freedom to look successful today. But there is a second force at play, a much more sophisticated predator, one that wears a tailored suit, smiles warmly, and reaches directly into your portfolio every single day, completely undetected. Level 2. The Wall Street illusion and the thief in a suit. You managed to resist the new car. You stayed in your modest apartment. You protected your $100,000 from the disease of lifestyle inflation. You feel incredibly smart, but you just crossed a silent tripwire. You are no longer invisible. You have officially entered the database of the American wealth management machine. When your account balance hits 6 figures, an algorithm flags your profile. You are now classified as profitable prey. Suddenly your phone rings. An email arrives from a prestigious firm. A professional in a tailored bespoke suit wants to buy you a steak dinner or invite you to the golf course. He calls himself a wealth manager, a financial advisor, or a portfolio strategist. He speaks with deep, soothing authority about macroeconomic volatility, diversified asset allocation, and exclusive proprietary funds. He uses this complex financial jargon for one specific reason. He wants to paralyze you with insecurity. He wants you to believe that investing is a dark art, far too dangerous for a regular person to navigate alone, and it works perfectly. You hire him because you are terrified of making a catastrophic mistake. You believe that outsourcing your money to a Wall Street expert is the ultimate proof of your financial sophistication. You think you have finally arrived. You think you are buying peace of mind. You are not. You are buying a parasite. The moment you sign that thick stack of paperwork, you are actively funding the elite class using the future survival of your own family. Let us expose the brutal mathematics of this transaction. The advisor smiles and tells you his management fee is only 1.5 to 2% of your assets per year. 2%. It sounds absolutely harmless. When you are buying a cup of coffee, a 2% tax is microscopic. You do not even notice it. Wall Street relies heavily on your biological inability to understand compounding mathematics. Let us look at the ruthless reality. If you leave your $100,000 in the market to grow for 20 to 30 years, assuming standard historical returns, it multiplies into a massive fortune. But that 2% fee is not a one-time transaction. They skim it off the top every single year. They take 2% when the market is breaking records. They take 2% when the market crashes and you are losing sleep. They get paid regardless of your pain. But here is the mathematical slaughter they deliberately hide from you. You are not just losing that flat 2%, you are losing the compound interest that those stolen fees would have generated over the next 2 decades. It is a bleeding financial wound that never clots. By the end of your investing timeline, that tiny, innocent-sounding 2% fee will have silently devoured 30 to 40% of your total potential wealth. Let that horrifying reality sink into your bones. Nearly half of your life's work, entirely gone. Think about what 40% actually represents. It is not just numbers on a screen. It is 10 extra years you will be forced to sit in a cubicle. It is the inability to pay for your aging parents' health care. It is the generational wealth you failed to pass down to your children. Imagine the sheer amount of sweat, stress, and anxiety it took for you to save that initial $100,000. Imagine the arguments with your spouse, the skipped vacations, the late nights grinding at your job. Now realize that a massive chunk of your sacrifice was drained away to pay for a stranger's country club membership and luxury car leases. You took 100% of the risk. You provided 100% of the capital. You blowed for that money. And the thief in the suit walks away with almost half of your total lifetime returns simply for placing your funds into the exact same basic index funds that you could have bought yourself for free on your phone in less than 3 minutes. It is a perfectly legal wealth transfer from the working class to the financial elite. You feel a sudden sickness in your stomach. You feel utterly betrayed. You finally realize the entire wealth management industry is artificially engineered to make you feel stupid, simply to justify a fee structure that will mathematically ruin your future. But when you have escaped the toxic temptation of consumer debt, and when you have successfully dodged the smiling meat cleaver of Wall Street, what does this $100,000 actually mean? Welcome to the final truth, the ultimate reality that corporate America hates the most. Level 3. The power of refusal. And the F-you money matrix. If you have successfully resisted the suburban cage, and if you have actively starved the Wall Street parasite, what is this money actually for? You must completely reprogram your understanding of return on investment. Society has aggressively conditioned you to view your first $100,000 as a down payment on a lifestyle. The system wants you to look at that capital and see a pool of funds that must immediately be converted into physical assets. That is a deliberate lie. That money is not meant to buy things. It is meant to buy time. Let us calculate the brutal, liberating mathematics of your survival. Strip away the restaurants, the subscriptions, and the luxury upgrades. Look strictly at your absolute baseline burn rate, your rent, your groceries, your basic utilities. For the average ambitious person running a lean operation, $100,000 represents 2 to 3 entire years of core living expenses. That is 24 to 36 months of financial oxygen. That is over 1,000 days where you do not need to generate a single dime of income just to keep a roof over your head. This is not a rainy day fund. This is you money. It is the ultimate, untouchable weapon of self-preservation. It is the absolute highest return on investment you can possibly achieve, and it has absolutely nothing to do with percentage yields or market dividends. The true return on investment here is raw, unadulterated power. It is the power of refusal. Think about your current reality inside corporate America. Think about the toxic hustle culture that demands you sacrifice your evenings and your weekends for a company that would replace you in a week. Think about the quiet, humiliating desperation of sitting in morning meetings, nodding along to corporate nonsense, swallowing your pride, and taking abuse from a sociopathic manager because you are terrified of missing your next paycheck, when you have zero savings, or when your savings are locked up in a mortgage and car loans. You are a hostage. You are highly manageable. You are incredibly easy to control because the fear of starvation is holding your leash. But the exact second you internalize the fact that you hold 3 years of survival in your bank account, a profound psychological mutation occurs. The baseline anxiety that has haunted you for years simply evaporates. It is replaced by a cold, dangerous calm. You no longer react to threats. When your boss implies your job is on the line, your heart rate does not spike. You look at them with the terrifying stillness of a person who knows they cannot be coerced. You now possess the ultimate power to simply stand up, say no, and walk out the door without a second thought. You have the power to say no to debt, no to exploitation, and no to a life that makes you miserable. This is the exact moment you realize what true wealth actually looks like. It is not loud. It is not a revving engine on a leased sports car. It is not a designer watch bought on credit to impress strangers. Loud wealth is just a desperate cry for validation from a person who is secretly drowning in obligations. True wealth is completely silent. True wealth is invisible. True wealth is the quiet, unbreakable posture of a human being who actually owns their own time. This level of psychological autonomy is exactly what the financial institutions and the corporate elites fear the most. The system fundamentally requires you to be anxious. They need you to be over-leveraged. They need you to constantly crave the next purchase, so you stay running endlessly on the treadmill of production. A citizen with $100,000 in liquid capital who utterly refuses to spend it on status symbols is a massive, uncontrollable threat to the economic machine. You become completely immune to their marketing. You become immune to their pressure. Your $100,000 is a glitch in the relentless rhythm of capitalist consumption. Keeping it is how you break the matrix. The system is a trap, but you now possess the blueprint to survive it. Take that $100,000 and deploy it into the most aggressively boring, broad market index funds you can possibly find. Do not attempt to outsmart the market with complex, actively managed portfolios. Do not hand it over to a smiling advisor in a tailored suit. You must treat that capital for what it truly is. It is not bait to catch a flashy lifestyle. It is a titanium shield. It is your ultimate defense against an economic machine entirely designed to exploit your psychological insecurities. I want you to remember this brutal reality. The absolute truth of building real, sustainable wealth is that the correct financial path is always the most agonizingly tedious path. If your investing strategy feels exciting, if it gives you an adrenaline rush, you are doing it completely wrong. Boredom is the exact price of financial invincibility. Embrace the monotony. Protect your capital. Guard your finite time with your life, and subscribe to the Baron's Ledger to ensure you never become Wall Street's prey ever again.